Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about a computer that could run 2 monitors, a bunch of buttons and bits and pieces, and then we're going to install a bunch of softwares that's going to make this whole pinball table come alive. It's going to be a long episode, so let's get on with it.
Now we jump over to our mjrnet.org and we go to the bottom and you see the visual guide, and you'll see here the computer. So the computer is attached to a video card, a sound card, and instead of having this KL25Z board being the controller for the buttons, I had used a zero delayed USB port. If we go now over to our guide, table of content, piece, designing the PC, this here would have a lot of information that would talk to you about the need of whatever type of PC that you need to own already, or need to go out and buy a new one. But it doesn't have to be anything over the top. We would definitely need to have Windows 10 is fine, doesn't have to be 11. We need to be able to install 64-bit because lots of softwares these days are coming towards 64-bit. Doesn't have to be very powerful. It seems like most CPUs out there can handle most of the things you need. Motherboard, you have to have a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM and some USB ports and Ethernet to be able to put your softwares on when you want to download up or upload things. Graphics card, that is quite an important one. So you'll need to look it up and see what type of monitors that you would have to run. If it's 4K, they need something a lot more powerful. If you want to do more than 2 monitors, like 3, so you can have like the DMD, you have to get a much more powerful graphics card that can run 3 monitors properly. Hard disk is something that don't have to fret. If it's an SSD, that's brilliant because that'll be nice and fast. If not, it could be just a regular hard drive. It's just about loading time. Of sound card could be on board. Or you can have an external sound card. That would probably be better because later on, if you want to put, like, say, a surround sound, then you'll need a sound card that can handle a surround sound. Fans. This computer fan is useful. Probably need to buy a few of them. We want to be able to drill some holes in the cabinet when you have to have enough ventilation to go around inside the cabinet to keep everything cool when things are going. Now let me show you what I've got in this machine. I have an Asus Intel 2.5 GHz 2-quad CPU that has 8 gigs of RAM with Windows 10, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970, and a Creative Sound Blaster X5 Extreme Game Sound Card 7.1 channel, internals PCI. With the power pack, I just used the one that came in the case when I first got the computer. I have this board which I put these rails, and it just becomes a nice shelf, it just slides out. The computer's on this railing. This can pull out, won't pull out yet because I just glued it down. There's quite a bit of a space underneath here which I can also hide other components need to be, but then this computer should be stripped down and then take it out of the case and just mount it on this board. And then here would have other stuff. Before I took it out of its case, I had to make sure that the system was running properly. I reinstalled the whole system actually, and make sure that I can get the 2 monitors hooked up together using the graphics card, making sure all the updated software and everything is ready to go. Here's something I learned the hard way. Nobody really told me about this. I found this on a thread somewhere on the internet. So in your display, it doesn't really matter if you have your screen the way that they recommend. But the thing that really got me is that I might have to make sure that the resolution is to a good optimal, Plus also there's something called a hertz. That's the refresh rate of the screen, which doesn't show you on this particular setting. So I had to go to my graphics cards settings or control panel. So in the NVIDIA, you can see that this particular resolution I have chosen, don't worry about this bit, but it is the refresh rate. So I had selected previously 23 or 24 and not at the maximum of what it could do, which is 60. So pick the right resolution so it will get you 60 hertz. So then things can be able to be run smoothly and all the DMDs in the background, everything will be playing well. Here's a tray partially opened. This is the USB that would run to the front for the buttons. With this USB hub, it connects to our zero delay board, and each one of these plugs on this side is going to each one of these buttons. Each one of the buttons has 4 cables into it. There's a black and a blue, red, and another black. So normally it will be just like this, a single one that just plugs right to the board. Or you can do a daisy chain with the ground black. As you see that this is the last button on the series for the ground, it connects to the one, the single, goes to the double, and then goes off to that would be the single, what it would be this single, and then it goes to the next double. Where is it? The double there, you see. And then that then goes to the last button on this series, which then that one will be then plugged into the USB zero delay board. To make one of these plugs, you'll need to buy the bits, and I'll definitely need to buy all these crimpers. Highly recommended. Doing it the daisy chain way for the black, it means that not all the cables, so for example you can see here there's quite a few different color cables here, so each of those wires for the buttons will have to travel all the way around the cabinet, or one side in this case to this side to plug in. To take away one of them, it's just a black, so I just can have one black that would run all the way, that would then connect to all the other buttons. So I'm going to save just on one color cabling, which is the ground. If I unplug all this, I can slide this whole cable out to the top. So here we have the motherboard, we have the graphics card, there's a sound card on the right, and there's a heatsink with a CPU, we've got a RAM, we have the power pack, and we have the SSD. Now that we've installed our minimum items, so we can now start to install the software for the virtual pinball. There's a whole bunch of softwares, it's quite insane. So we will go to our PinUP system, this is where everything will be. So we'll go to install now. And we'll go and read all this if you like. And I'll just scroll down to here where we have our Baller Bonanza version November 23. If I click into this, you'll see, here we go, all the software. So we have a Visual Pinball X. So that's the software that actually you play the game. Then you have the PinUP player and the popper front end. Well, this is just the selector of each of the Visual Pinball X games. So the Visual Pinball X is the software that runs the game. PinUP player is the popper, also is the front end. So it is when you turn your computer on, you would load up this front end where you will see all your different tables you can select and then select and play. And then that will then launch the Visual Pinball X or the Future Pinball, and this last one here. And then we have something called a DMD X and a Flex DMD. So those two will be the part where it shows the scoreboard. Yeah. So that's sort of 3 areas. So I sort of refer it as sort of 3 programs in a way, but it's, you have different softwares to play the game. You have a software to load up the front end, and you have a software to deal with while you're playing the game launch. You'll have that DMD. So we go and click and download this, and then we'll go on to our cabinet, and then I'll show you how all that works. So here we are now at the cabinet. We have our PinUP popper baller installer. I would also recommend installing this Pin Affinity because this helps the pinball table to stabilize with certain times we have multi-balls or certain effects and the whole table is just going berserk and there's a surge of activities where things seem to slow down and your ball just sort of just disappears off. So this would help it to sort that issue out. Not sure would you be able to see the effects, what I'm talking about, but the right one has the Pin Affinity installed, the left one doesn't. So when things go a bit berserk, as I mentioned, it should slow down and jitter a bit. So far it's looking okay. This is how we'll get to run our Pin Affinity automatically when we start the computer. So we do the run, we call our shortcut folder out, and then we make a shortcut. We drag that shortcut over to the automatic startup. In the shortcut, you need to go into the properties again, and you need to set it to minimize. It's not automatic on minimize, so you need to do that. Now we'll go and install the baller installer and accept the agreements first. So I have chosen a different folder. So I'm not choosing the C drive, which everyone should be recommended here, but I actually created a different folder because I've installed this already into my C drive. So I have created a temporary sort of C folder on my desktop. Where is she? Desktop. There we go. So I have selected this one. Say next. Install. Right, so I will have to pause this and I'll get back to you in a second. Now we're towards the end of the installation and it would ask us to install DirectX. And because I've installed it already for myself, I'm not going to do that. But you guys go ahead and do that. You say accept. And I'll say no. And then this would then bring us to the config. Now here's all the magic. We just follow the instructions, we go next, and then that's probably the last time we touch the top next. Now we need to do 2 screens, which is what I've got. Don't forget the HD, because I've only got HD, not 4K. We apply the layout. And then we follow the way that these monitors laid out. That's next. And then we say, yeah, we just do step 1. It'll tell you to do step 2, and then just keep going, and just keep going until you see it says it's finished. And you can go to the next page. This takes a little while. You see all these things that pops up. Don't worry about that, this is normal. Just let it do its thing. Future Pinball, one of the softwares you can use to play the pinball tables. Right, now that part is done. Step 3. Now this is pretty important, as this is the place where we set up our monitors. We have a topper and you can see it's disabled on the default. Because previously you picked 2 screens right at the start, it would only now just let you have the back glass and the playing field, as you see here, is on. These are available. So I've dragged this back glass to the back glass monitor. So you need to stretch it out and get it fitting. Then we have our table, and then that also fits quite nicely there. And then we need to go to our DMD, and then we need to set this up, and then every game that we install, this would be in the position. Let's close and save that, and then we go to our, our last step, fourth step. Then we do our test, our DMD. That should show up in the back glass. There we go, and that's working nicely. And don't have to worry about that one, but on this one here, this is the back glass. That's looking very good too. Wouldn't worry about that positioning. I mean, we can position that DMD again if you want, but I'm going to leave it as such. Right, there we go. There's a very handy shortcut folder that has been created on the desktop where we can here launch our table or Visual Pinball X. All right, great. Go to Preference, Videos, and this is where we need to make sure that our setup is correct. My computer is not that powerful, so I tend to set things a bit lower. Yeah, we'll leave all these settings. Don't have to touch anything, but here, max texture dimension. So I'm going to choose the second last one. It seems to use a little bit less resource and play things a little bit smoother for myself. So I'll just have that set like that. Then we need to go to Preface again. And button one. Where's the button one? Yes, this one. Key, nudge, and stuff. So you can see that everything seems to be set up already. So now I have this little extra software that I've downloaded. Anti-micro. Yes, you just go ahead and look for that and download that, because that is pretty useful for myself. So on my cabinet, I'm pressing the keys. And you can see that it flashes the particular number, and then I can go to each of the fields and select the right button. So my left and right button is button 7 and button 8. And then you can see that I've got the extra buttons on the side, so I can then set those as well. I've got my start button, the exit button. There's no need for nudge because we actually have the KL25Z board that does all that for us. Put my coin, and oh, there's a EB buy-in. So I think that's for certain games where I asked you to continue by putting more credits. So I'm gonna see my fire button. My fire button is 10, so I'm going to double up for the fire button for that. Yep, I think I've also put 10 for the entering and 10 for the plunger as well. Is that correct? Yes, so I have the menu fire at the bottom and then plunger, and yeah. So yeah, so my fire button is tripling up for its function, which is, can do quite well. So once that's set up, yeah, the Visual Pinball X is ready to play. I can try a game. I'll have to make sure I load it from the correct folder, not the one that I normally load from, which has all these games. I need to go back to the fake C drive, the newly installed. And we go into temp C, need to go into your Visual Pinball, and then go to the tables, and I'm going to pick Leprechaun King. That's the demo that comes free. If you can't play this, there's something wrong. Let's try and start that up. You need to load the table first. Once you've loaded, you can press F5, or we can, there should be a side panel there. There we go. There you go, a side panel. You can click on that and see the design of the table. You can click on the script. You can see the script of the table. These are little information and things you can probably edit, and it tells you to edit on the forums. So we press this play button to play the table, or press F5. Once that loads, it would kick in. Now I managed to set up the screen recorder with the back screen and the main folder. So let's see. It's loading. It's finished loading. I was able to start the game. Woohoo! There we go. It's quite smooth. Graphics is not jittering and doing anything strange. Back screen graphic is going very well. The music is doing fine as well. Right, so we've got to this point. You successfully installed the table. Now we need to go and figure out if the front end part is working. Okay, to stop the game we press Q, and we press Q again, and then we'll be back on the table. So we'll go to the PinUP popper config, and we go to our setup. So this is where we'll be configuring our buttons for our front end. So this is for before we play the VPX tables. This part took me a little while to get my head around, but you don't have to fill in every single one of these fields. So so how do you control this? So for example, this one, you double click on it and then you click on a button on your cabinet and it'll just load it up. And if you don't want it, you can double click it and then clear it. So let's do the escape exit. So that's going to be my exit button for my cabinet. And then I have either I can choose the next game or the next page. I think next game. So that would be my right flipper. Then we have our left flipper. Then we will go to start game. And I have my menu return. Yes, and then I can exit out of a selected item when I'm scrolling the icons. That's a good one. We'll need the menu select so we can enter into each of the sections that we have selected and even enter into the game itself. And then menu system exit, yeah, so exit the actual game and the whole system. And what? Let me clear that last one. We don't need to have anything associated with that. Then I think I'm done. I'll close that off, and then we can exit and launch. Hey, so we can scroll right, scroll. Some tables just added, different types of versions of pinball players. I press my fire button or my enter button, press my left exit button, and press it back in, and then we go in and launch the table and need to close that window. There we go. This is going to be normal where everything just shuts down. The front end would then hide itself, and then the VPX would then load up in the background, and then it would show up. First we see the DMD, well, the actual back glass with the whole scoreboard, and then we'll see the table load up next. And then very shortly we can play a game of Leprechaun King. So congratulations, we have finally installed VPX and we can play games, and we also have the PinUP popper for the front end to be able to select tables. Alright, we'll exit the table, exit again, and then it should pop us out of the whole front end.
Well, congratulations if you've gotten this far. It means that you are able to play a game of Leprechaun King. So this is a demo game. So all we get is only the audio. We're not going to get any bumps and shakes and any type of tactile feel to it yet. But those will be coming in the next few videos. So, as usual, thanks for watching.
And here's a tiny hello from the Emerald Isle.